Welcome to the main streets of Gadgetzan. I'm a little soul. Vampire Panda. Welcome, guys. I hope you all had a very happy Thanksgiving. If you're watching this, I really appreciate it. I know we have a very small window of time before they do the big card dump. When they do the big card dump, which I believe is going to happen tomorrow, today's Sunday, the 27th. I believe on the 28th they're going to dump it. And then I think the expansion's coming out in another week, maybe. Probably next Tuesday. That's my guess. It'll either come out Thursday, or it'll come out next Monday or Tuesday. Something like that. But again, really appreciate it. We're going to go through the rest of the revealed cards. And literally while I was setting up the camera, they have revealed a new legendary, and we're going to end with that legendary. It is a neutral legendary. It's a very, very interesting card, but we're going to talk about all the cards, especially all the Jade Lotus cards. That's why we got the panda hat. That's why the panda hat is here. I'm honestly not sure what I'm going to wear for the big reveal. Some sort of panda Mad Hatter hoodie thing. Maybe I'll just wear all three. I'll put one on one hand, one on the other. I don't know. I'll figure it out. That being said, I've had an excellent Thanksgiving. I hope you have too. Let's get into the cards, because that's what I know what you guys are excited about. Here we go. Bam. Jade Swarmer. 2 mana, 1/1. Rogue card. Stealth. Death Rattle. Summon a Jade Golem. This card looks weak on the surface, but I actually think it's quite good. My issues with this card are obviously the weak stat line. So the stat line is weak. We can all agree. 1/1 for 2 mana, not good. However, it does summon a Jade Golem. So that's nice. So if this is your first Jade Golem card, right, this is a 1/1 that will summon a 1/1 when it dies. Now, it has stealth, but it's also very weak to AoE. So, shamans are still a thing. Rogues are still a thing. Mages have some cheap 3 mana AoE now. Paladins still have consecration. So there's a lot of ways this thing dies. That being said, keeping this thing alive is not really the point. The point is to get the Jade Golem trade going. So there's some obvious synergies with this card that I want to talk about. 1, Death Rattle. So, because it's a rogue card, and it's stealthed, if it does survive, you can then unearth Raptor this and get 2 golems for the price of 1. Well, not for the price of 1, but, 2 golems, a 3/4, and a 1/1 for 5 mana. Which is good, which is solid. That's a nice board state. It does make it a little hard to dagger in the first few turns, but this is a fairly nice tempo play. Because a lot of times, especially in like the Miracle-style rogues, what were they doing on turn 1 and 2? They were passing, and then they were daggering up. So, why not pass and play this? It's not bad, And to be honest, with the way a lot of the cards are looking, it looks like the meta is going to be going slower. Even though decks will curve out, they're not going to curve out and overwhelm you in the first few turns like we've been seeing. They're going to curve out and be fairly mid-rangey. I firmly believe this is going to be the rise of the mid-range. And if that is the case, a card like Jade Swarmer is not going to lose you the kind of tempo that it might have lost in, the Karazhan and the Old Gods meta. Even though the Old Gods meta did slow down a little bit, once we developed the best aggro decks, it sped up like crazy. So this card could be good. It could be good. And it's sticky, right? It's giving you another Jade Golem. And the fact that it's a Death Rattle and it's a 1/1 is kind of good. If you look at a card like Kindly Grandmother, one of the things that made it somewhat weak is it was a 1/1 that people just ignored. Because they're like, what? A 3/2? I don't care. I'm just gonna keep developing. And to be honest, I feel like it's one of the weaker 2-drops. But its strength was its death rattle. You know, you were getting a 1/1 that developed a 3/2, which is basically like getting a 1-drop that develops a 2-drop. So this is a 2-drop 1/1 that develops a 1/1 or better. That's sort of the idea. Now remember, Jade Golems scale. So even though this is a 2-mana 1/1, most likely on 2, it could very easily be a 1/1 that summons a 3/3 or a 4/4 or a 5/5 in the later game. So the Faceless, not Summoner, Twilight Summoner, 1 mana, or 4 mana 1/1 that summons a 5/5 Shadow Beast, you could compare that card to this card in the later game as the game moves on. You know, and honestly, I think that's a pretty darn good card, and I think it's actually underrated, and I think it's very, very good in the Zoth decks. And so, a card like this, because of its death rattle, could actually foster a rogue N'Zoth Jade Golem archetype, which would be really neat, I think. Because imagine your Jade Golems get up to like 7 or 8, right? And then bam, you drop N'Zoth. He summons back 2 of these bad boys, and then you get a 9/9 and a 10/10 when they die. Holy crap, that's insane. That means the N'Zoth has sticking power now. So if we could just get an awesome taunt with N'Zoth, woo, holy shit. Rogue's gonna be awesome. You know, but I believe that the Jade Golem style is gonna be somewhat tempo oriented. And so you're gonna be playing cards on 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's just summon a golem, summon a golem, summon a golem. And by the time you hit, 6, 7, 8 mana costs, your Jade Golems are getting 5, 5, 6, 6s. Like, they're getting big. And then every time you play a Jade Golem card, they just get harder and harder and harder to deal with. And your opponent's just going to run out of stuff. Like, how do they remove all that? And because a lot of the control decks are going to be relatively slow in the early game, you notice a lot of the minions for Priest and Warlock and Mage are regularly statted or understatted because they draw cards and stuff like that. They're going to have to really rely on their removal. And guess what? That's how you beat a lot of those decks. You either rush them down or you just drop so much stuff that they don't have enough removal at the end. And they're going to run out of removal. And when they run out of removal, guess what? You're dropping a 15/15 Jade Golem in their face. So, if there's enough support for Jade Golem stuff in Rogue, I could see this being a very, very powerful archetype. And I could see this motherfucker right here being the thing that helps foster that archetype and will be a staple in it. Now, if Jade Golem Synergy is just not that good, or it's too slow, or, there's just not enough support for it, this card's going to be terrible. So, it all just depends on how good Jade Golem is and how viable the deck archetype is. There's also a card later on that I will show you that synergizes very well with this card, but not because of the Jade Golem. Foreshadowing! Woo! Alright, so let's move on. Let's take a peek at the next card here. Jade Swarmer. Click. Got 2 new card reveals for the Lotuses. Number 1, Jade Idol, and number 2, Devolve. I'm going to be talking a lot about these cards. So, let's start with Devolve, because this card is the bane of my existence again. Here's what annoys me about this set, is that there's several cards that have come out where I've just been like, I'm going to hate this card. I know it. I'm going to hate it. It's going to make me flip my fucking shit, because I'm going to get a nice board established, and then they're going to play this card, and it's going to screw up everything. Potion of Polymorph was one of them, and Evolve is the other one. Fuck this card. I hate this fucking card. It fucking annoys the shit out of me already. I haven't even played against it yet. All enemy minions. Transform all enemy minions into random ones that cost 1 less for 2 mana. 2 mana! That's it! 2 mana. 2. Just, hey, your N'Zoth play, where you got all these awesome Death Rattle cards back, Devolve. Gone. All your minions now weaker and all their death rattles are gone. Yay. What are you going to do now? Oh, look. Lightning Storm. Boom. They're on. Jesus. Devolve Lightning Storm. Devolve Elemental Destruction. Blah, your whole board's dead. Yay, I just used 2 relatively weak cards to clear your entire board of death rattle minions that should have been incredibly sticky and really hard to deal with, but they're not. Oh, hey, guess what? N'Zoth Jade Golem Rogue that I look at all these, oh man, look at all these Swarmers now. Look at all these Jade Golem stuff. Man, even if you kill all my shit, I'm gonna get 2 20/20 golems and the game's over. Devolve. Look what I did. Look what I did, Jimmy. I played Devolve. I'm a shaman. The fuck? Ah, man. As if shaman gameplay was not, like, totally linear and just silly and just play the strongest card you have already. Now, what I do like about this card is I would love to see the Devolve Evolve deck. I really hope that becomes a thing. I actually would be fine with that. I would be totally fine. Devolve my board, evolve your board, let's go at it. At least then the minions still battle. That'd be cool. I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be interesting. But just having devolve. Here's why I hate it. Because it's transform. I hate transform effects. I hate them. I hate them. I hate polymorph. I hate potion of polymorph. I hate devolve. I hate hex. I even hate Teakmaster Overspark. Fuck that guy. These transform effects, man. It's such bullshit. You know, because it gets around the power of a lot of these cards. You know? When you fucking hex a Savannah Highmane, it is crushing. Crushing. As if Shaman wasn't strong enough. You know? The thing is, you gotta realize, as much as I rant about the mid-range Shaman, it was crap back in the day. Hex was the only thing keeping it up. You know? So I understood. It was fine when Shaman was, you know, a mid-tier class, right? And Hex was a strong tentpole of that class. I'm okay with it then. You know? Because they didn't really have that many other tools that were just obviously blatantly OP. They didn't have fucking Thing from Below and 4 mana 7/7s and Thunder Bluff Valiants. Ugh. You know? That's the problem, is they have all these cards that are just insane drops. And then now they get another card that is like basically a mini hex for the entire opponent's board? Come on, man. I understand you've been trying to make the Shaman better for a while. It's already good. You're done. You don't need to do any more work. You don't need to give them this fucking card. Just a one-of this card is just devastating to your opponent's board. Any Grimy Goons deck and this card just fucks them in the ass. I hate it. Now, is it actually a good card? Just in general. So obviously it fucks me over. But is it going to fuck you over? Probably not. Here's why. Yes, is it excellent N'Zoth counter? Yep. It totally is. Does it do well against all decks? Nope. No, it actually doesn't. You'd be surprised how many decks actually really evolve around like Battle Cries or like, you know, just playing some big minions that have static effects on their thing, and if they lose it and go down 1, it's not so bad. You know? Would it suck to have your Tyrion devolved? Yeah. Would it suck to have your Inkmaster Solia devolved? Not really. Would it suck? You know, that just turns into a 6. That might buff it. You know, the control decks have a lot of cards that are actually understated but have an amazing effect. And so when they get devolved, they almost get stronger. So this card is really going to be the bane of existence for Paladins and for Hunters, because they have a lot of cards that are going to be buffed, and they have a lot of Death Rattle cards. And so that's where Devolve is really going to shine, is against those decks that really need their things to sort of stay as they are, or to die and then get a good effect, right? But if they're playing Warlock, what are you going to do? Devolve the fucking Abyssal Enforcer? So what? You might just turn it into a 6/6 again. It's already a 6/6. It already did its effect, right? What are you going to do? Devolve like a zoo deck? You're just turning the 2-drops into 1-drops. Okay, that's not bad. That's pretty good. But they still have a board. They still have shit. They're still going to drop more shit behind it. Devolve doesn't clear the board. It just gives them weaker minions. You know, so it's like, what do? You devolve Don Honcho? Like, who cares? It doesn't really, you know. That's what I mean. You devolve Kazakis, you just turn into a 3-drop. It's already a 3/3. Right? You devolve any one of the Discover draw cards, the Cabal Chemist, the, you know, Shadowrunner guy. You devolve the fucking Cabal Crystal Runner. It probably is just going to turn into another 5/5. It's already a 6-mana card. Just turn into a 5-mana card. You know what I mean? So, like, it's not that bad. It's far better to evolve your guys than to devolve your opponent. You know, and the fact that this costs 2 mana, it makes it's wonky, you know? Sometimes you almost rather just summon a totem, or you'd rather just play a totem golem. And so, to be honest, I don't know how much play this is actually going to see, and I really hope that's the case. Because the problem is, like I said, Devolve really fucks the decks I want to play. I want to play Hunter. I want to play Paladin. I want to play Warrior. I want to have a bunch of taunts. I want to build boards. I want stuff. They're fucking with my stuff, man. You know? And the crazy part is, too, is like, if it devolves Jade Golems, for instance, that's not that bad either. Because the Jade Golems, not only do they scale stats, they also scale mana costs. So if you have a Jade Spirit and you summon a 3/3 Golem and it gets devolved, well, it just turns into a 2-drop. And the Jade Spirit turns into a 3-drop, which is probably an improvement. You know? So in a weird way, when they play against other Jade Lotus decks, devolve might improve the entire board. Right? Look at like rogue cards, right? SI7 agents, Tomb Pillagers, Gadgetzan Auctioneers. Okay, so does this fuck Gadgetzan Auctioneer? Yeah. Right? You play Gadgetzan, he plays Devolve, boom, your Gadgetzan's not there anymore. But then what does it do? It turns into a 5/5 probably, because it's a 6-drop. You turn a 6-drop 4/4 into a 5-drop 5/5 with Devolve. Yeah, it removes the card draw aspect, but did you improve your board situation doing that? Not really. You know? Okay, yeah, so the guy doesn't get a coin if you devolve a Tomb Pillager, but that's not really a huge loss. You know? So, you know, I'm playing against Druid. Oh my god, I devolved his 9-drop into an 8-drop. Ooh. Big fucking deal. You know, all the Druid minions are so big and strong anyway. Devolving them doesn't really solve the problem. And that, I think, is the biggest thing about this card. If you devolve a large board that doesn't have death rattle effects or really powerful ongoing effects, you haven't solved the problem. You've simply made it slightly less worse. And the thing about Hex that made it so powerful is it completely neutralized everything that was dangerous about the minion that it was played on. You know? And yes, we've all had those stories where my 0-1 frog fucking lives forever, and then I turn into a 2-6 frog and then wins me the game. Yada, yada, yada. That's not the point. The point is, though, is that I'd much rather face an 0-1 frog than face a 6/5 Savannah Highmane. That's the point. Right? That's what Hex does. And so Devolve, like I said, is a mini Hex for your entire opponent's board. But if your opponent already has a big board, Devolve is not getting you back from that. It's not a comeback mechanic. What it is, it's a fuck over your opponent's huge tempo swing mechanic. So that's really it. And so, because it is so situational, I actually don't think it's going to see a lot of play. And I really hope it doesn't. I really, really hope it doesn't. I honestly think this card is very situational in that sense. And it's going to be hard to slot it into the Shaman decks because the Shaman decks are already so tight. And it would have to create its own deck archetype. And I think it's really only going to see play in Evolve, Devolve decks. Jade Idol. All right. So, like I said, because I'm a little late to the party here because of Thanksgiving and shit, this card has literally broken Reddit, has broken the internet. People have flipped the fuck out, and they think this card is insane. So let's take a look at it. It is a Druid card. It is 1 mana Jade Idol. Choose one. Summon a Jade Golem. Or shuffle 3 copies of this card into your deck. So what that means is, you play 1 Jade Idol, you get 3 more. You play another Jade Idol, you get 3 more. Right? So every time you play Jade Idol, you're getting an additional 2 Jade Idols in your deck. And then what that does is increase the likelihood of you drawing a Jade Idol, and it gives you essentially infinite Jade Idols. And so you can go first one Jade Idol, second one Jade Idol, third one, more copies. First one Jade Idol, second Jade Idol, third one, more copies. Ad infinitum. So, in theory, you could just have infinite value and just make 30 fucking Jade Idol golems, you know. But it's going to take a long time to pull that shit off. So, I think because of the time that it takes to really get this mega combo off, and it really is a mega combo, a long-term mill-destroying, control-destroying combo in one card. Like, that is what it is. And people have freaked out about it, and they've said, it's OP, OP, OP. You know, is this going to limit design space? Ya betcha. Ya betcha. Right? This card alone makes Druid Jade Idol a thing. Now, is that going to be good? One of the problems that Malygos Druid, the current spell-based version, one of the problems that it has is it gets run over. And it's so busy ramping that, you know, you just play minions on curve and you end up smushing the face. And a lot of times they don't have enough removal to keep up. So you may still see that. And throwing in a Jade Idol doesn't change that. In fact, throwing in a Jade Idol just clutters your deck with more Jade Idols. Now, eventually those are going to become very powerful. And the fact that they're always going to have to deal with additional Jade stuff is going to be difficult. And so I believe that Jade Druid is going to be a very good mid-range, late-game, control-destroying deck. But it's going to suck against aggro decks. And that's where I think the balance is. And that's where I think this card is not one of those completely busted cards. It's not because the card itself is not excellent. The card is excellent. This may actually be the best card in the set. It's possible. Again, I haven't seen the rest of the cards. Not all of them. But just in terms of the amount of power this represents, it's insane. I mean, it blows my mind. It really does blow my mind. But I'm tempering myself because I don't want to sit here and say incredibly OP, best card in the game, Jade Druid, tier 1 meta. You know, I don't want to jump ahead like I did with some of the Grimy Goon stuff. But that's just because I love the Grimy Goons. All right? I gotta admit, my love for the classes probably prompted me to pump them up a little more than they actually deserve. And plus, they were the first cards revealed. The Grimy Goons were the first group of cards revealed. And so, expansion hype was quite high then. And you gotta admit, being able to buff all your shit like that in hand, I mean, it's a scary mechanic to be playing things ahead of the curve so often. You know, you give +1/+1 to anything, and it's basically like increasing its mana cost by 1. You give +2/+2 to anything. It's basically like increasing its mana cost by like 1.5 to 2. So I was like, how the hell are other decks going to keep up with that? You know? And then you start seeing all the board clears and stuff from the from the Cabal, right? And you start seeing the really powerful Highlander decks that could come out of it. And you're like, okay, all right, I can see how that might combat the Grimy Goons. That makes sense. And then you start seeing this Jade Lotus shit and this Jade Idol card, and you're like, oh, okay, I see how the Grimy Goons can be combated now. And now I feel like everything is pretty balanced. But I feel like the Grimy Goons are going to be the thing that counters these fucking Jade Idol things. Because ultimately, it is a late game oriented card. It is a card that is going to require you to stack. And while there are quite a bit of Jade stuff going on in Druid, you're going to have to make a Jade-oriented deck. It's not a ramp deck. I mean, there's going to be some ramp, just because there's the Jade Blossom and there's a couple other cards that provide you with ramp. So my thinking is that if you combine some ramp elements with mostly Jade Golem elements, you can make a very, very strong late game oriented, control oriented, grind them the fuck out, just too much value to contain kind of deck. And it could be very powerful. But I think the fact that there's going to still be aggro decks, that Shaman is still a thing, Paladin is much improved, Hunter is still a thing, I think those decks are going to be the things that counter these Jade Idol decks. And I feel like the Jade Idol decks are going to be the things that counter the control decks of the Cabal. And so you have a very nice rock, paper, scissors thing going here. You've got Grimy Goons countering the Jade Idols, countering the Jade Lotus. You've got the Jade Lotus countering the Cabal, and you've got the Cabal countering the Grimy Goons. So it makes sense. It makes sense. And I think that is their intention. I think that's Blizzard's intention. I think that's what's going to come about. And so, Jade Idol, I'd say it's easily the most powerful Jade Golem card. But is it the most powerful card in the set? It's possible. I will have to see the entire set, and I will be doing a video ranking the top 10 cards in each of the tri-classes. So it's going to be like a top 30, basically. And I'll be talking about each of those cards in depth, and it's going to be very cool. So please tune in for that one. As soon as the card dump happens, I'm going to do a full set review, and then I'm also going to do top 10 cards from each tri-class, and I'm also going to do top 10 decks that I'm looking to play, or excuse me, top 9 decks I'm looking to play, one for each class. Videos coming up. Jade Idol, though, like I said, very, very, very powerful card. In Arena, it's going to suck. Yeah, it's going to totally suck. You don't want to add cards to your deck. It's a one mana spell for one that gets you 1/1s. Unless you have a ton of Jade Idol synergy, it's just going to suck. It's going to suck. It's too slow. It doesn't do anything. It makes your deck fatter. You don't want that. It's probably going to be a bad top deck if you don't have enough Jade Golem synergy. It's going to suck. So, 10 in Constructed, 3 in Arena. I didn't rate the other cards. For that, I apologize. Jade Swarmer, again, it's going to depend on the Jade Golem synergy. I think it'll be very good in Constructed. I'm going to give it a 7. And I think in Arena, it's also going to suck just because I don't think there's going to be enough Jade Golem synergy. And I'm going to give it a 4 in Arena. And then Devolve. Devolve. I just don't think it's going to see a lot of play. I'm going to give it a 5 or a 6. But against me, it's going to be a 10. Excuse me. Yeah. Devolve in Arena, it's going to be crap. It doesn't really help. Like I said, it doesn't solve your problem. That's the point, is it doesn't solve your board state problems. So let's move on. Sorry guys, I've been talking a lot. It's going to be a long video. There are a lot of cards. Alrighty. We've already seen those. So let's go your articles. New Shaman card. Call in the finishers. Apparently, Murloc decks for Shaman are still kinda being pushed. The Siltfin, drawing a blank. It's not Swarmer, is it? Siltfin Oracle? The 4 mana 2/5 Murloc that draws a card every time a friendly Murloc dies would have been awesome with this card. But it's not a standard anymore. So, call the finishers. 4 mana. Shaman card. Summon 4 1/1 Murlocs. Now, on the surface, this card is garbage. Why would I want 4 1/1s? This is a slightly cheaper Stand Against Darkness, and that card doesn't see play. Even though I like the card. I tried to make it work. It does not. The only thing that this card works with is there's a little card called Every Fin is Awesome, which gets a cost reduction for every Murloc that's on your board. So basically what you do is on turn 7, you play Call in the Finishers, you make Every Fin is Awesome worth 3 mana, and then you play this, and it buffs your entire board. So Every Fin is Awesome is +2/+2 for all creatures, not just Murlocs. It just gets reduced by Murlocs. So, if you have a Thing from Below, if you have a Totem Golem, even if you have a couple of totems, you slam this card, you slam Every Fin is Awesome, boom! Now you got a board. Now you got a 4 3/3s, and whatever fucking totems you got on the board are now, 2 4s. You have a board. You have a board. Now, super vulnerable to AoE and board clears? Yep. So playing this deck against the Cabal, probably going to get crushed. But playing it against some grimy goons, it's going to be tough, man. They may not have enough stuff. They might have like 2 or 3 big things, and you've got all this little shit, and now you kind of just overwhelm them. And maybe they don't have the board clears to catch up. It's possible. So I can see this card having applications, but I just think in general, it's pretty poor. In Arena, Stand Against Darkness is not bad. It's actually pretty good because there's lack of AoE, right? In Constructed, AoE is very prevalent because you get to choose what card you put in your deck. Call in the Finishers will be pretty darn good in Arena. It's just nice to have 4 1/1s. Flood the board. Let's go. Right? You're presented with too many threats to clear, and especially for non-ping classes, that's going to be really difficult. So in a weird way, this actually buffs Shaman in Arena. It's common, and because 4 mana, it's common, and so it's good. Not a whole lot to say. I don't think it'll see a lot of constructed play. I do think it's a neat card. If there's more Murloc synergy that I'm thinking of, because this card is a spell, so it's not like it can be brought out by Finja or anything else. But I could see Murloc Shaman being a thing. Sort of just spread the board, buff the board, go. And this could be a nice part of that. That being said, I don't think there's still not enough support. They gave so much support to Murloc Paladin. I don't know why. Why the fuck would Paladins have Murlocs anyway? Shamans should have Murlocs. Warlocks should have Murlocs. Fuck, thematically it makes sense, but they just decided Paladins and Murlocs are a thing. I don't get it. It's fucking dumb. Ugh. Anyway, enough about my rant on thematical Murloc shit. But, so in Constructed it'll be bad, probably, and I don't think it'll see play, and it gets a 3. In Arena it'll be pretty good, and it gets a 6. Not much to say, but neat card. Neat card. I like cards like this. I like that they exist. While I may not play them, I'm glad that someone out there is going to see this card and go, yeah, I'll put it in my deck. It'll be fun. You got to remember, this game is fun. It's supposed to be fun. And so most of my grades are going to be on the viability of these cards in competitive decks and decks that are good. But really, I like talking about the creativity of the game and deck archetypes and changing things up. And that's sort of my thing. So let's take a look at that bad boy right there. Jade Behemoth. 6 mana, 3/6 taunt, battle cry, summon a Jade Golem. Well, it's understated for its mana cost if it did not have an effect. So a 3/6 taunt for 5 would be a Fen Creeper, which is a little understated in itself. But that's sort of the accepted range for taunt, like a little bit of a stat loss and give a taunt. Right, so this is 6 mana. So there's a 1 mana tacked on to give you the Jade Golem, which is kind of what we've been seeing. 1 to 2 mana has been sort of how much a Jade Golem is worth. So if this is your first Jade Golem played, this card is crap. It's a 3/6 that summons a 1/1. Who gives a flying fuck? That's totally under tempo, totally understated, and a Grimy Goons deck will just run this the fuck over. and a Cabal deck will just kind of sweep it to the side. You know, even the other Jade Golem decks will probably outpace you if this is your first one. However, we did just see Jade Idol. We did see before the Jade Blossom, right? We did see that there's a Jade Spirit. We did see Aya Blackpaw. So a card like this, if it summons a 3/3, a 4/4, a 5/5, a 6/6, now becomes really, really powerful because it's slapping a taunt in front of it. So your Jade Golem gets protected and will probably get to swing and make good trades or get some face damage in. So again, it's another late game oriented protection card that allows Druid to swing back. And that's what Druids do. Excuse me. That's what Druids do, right? They swing back. When I say swing back, what I mean is they lose tempo early, but they lose it to ramp, and they lose it to get ahead in mana, and then when they drop a bunch of big shit, you don't have the mana to deal with it. When they're on turn 8, you're on turn 5. When they're on turn 9, you're on turn 6. And so you're dropping a 6-drop, they're dropping an 8-drop, right? And so on turn 6, when this guy comes out, they've probably played, my guess is about 2 to 4. So on average, this is a 3/6 that summons a 3/3, which later on, if other Jade Golems come out, will be larger. A 3/6 and a 3/3 is really good for 6 mana. I would take that. If someone just gave me a card that said, okay, 3/6 taunt that summons a 3/3 behind it, would you play that? I'd be like, yeah, I'll play that. Sure. Oh, by the way, it makes other things buff too later on. Oh, yeah, I would definitely play that. Give me 2 of them. Right? You know? And that's what's really cool. That's what's really cool. So what's the other 6 mana taunt that Druids have? It's Dark Arakoa, right? It's a 6 mana 5/7 with taunt. So you're losing 2 attack and 1 health to play a Jade Golem. So if we got a 3/3 and a 3/6, add those stats together and you get a 6/9, which is better than the 5/7 Dark Arakoa. So on average, the amount of stats and tempo that you put on the board with the Jade Behemoth is going to be ahead of most 6-drops that a Druid can offer. So I think this is a very good card. I think it will be a 2-of in the Druid decks, and I think this is just another value-oriented card that is going to give you a lot of good cards. Jade Behemoth, thumbs up. I'm going to give it an 8 in Constructed. In Arena, it just all depends on that synergy if you get enough cards, man. You know? But a 3/6 that summons, let's say, a 2/2, and it has taunt, that's not bad. It's not bad, but it's defensive. It doesn't trade very well with other 5-drops and 6-drops. I don't think this will be very good in Arena. But again, if it does summon a 3/3, a 4/4, or a 5/5 behind it, then it will be excellent in Arena. So in Arena, it all depends on the Jade Golem synergy. I'm going to give it a 5. All right, let's move on. Jinyu Water Speaker. Four mana, 3/6 Shaman card, Battle Cry, restore 6 health, overload 1. Huh? Healing for Shaman? Shamans don't care about healing unless it's a control Shaman, which isn't as good as the mid-range Shamans that we have. So, what does this card symbolize? Is there a shift towards control Shaman coming up? Maybe. With the rotation out of the Tunnel Trog, the Totem Golem, you know, the very powerful early game tools that Shaman has. Oh, and the Thunderbuff Valiant. They're going to lose a lot of their early game tempo plays. And they're going to lose a lot of the thing that allowed them to get on board and keep the board and pressure your face. And so a shift towards a control style, Jade Golem oriented, spell damage oriented deck might happen. And a Jinyu Water Speaker would fit in perfectly with a deck like that. To me, it's a little weird that it's an overload. I honestly don't think you needed that. You know, The nice part, though, is if you play this on 4 and heal up, you can play a 4 mana 7/7 right behind it on curve. So that ain't bad. You know, it doesn't cut. You know, one of the things about the 4 mana 7/7 that made it bad is if it kind of crippled your next play. It only gave you 3 mana to deal with on your next play. And that was usually bad. And if they dealt with your 4 mana 7/7, then you were kind of fucked the next turn. And then they could start developing things, and then they could out-snowball you. And so, in a weird way, you're putting all your eggs into one basket with the 4 mana 7/7. With the Jinyu Water Speaker, you're not really doing that. You're getting a very nice statted body. 3/6 on 4 mana is great. It's going to stay alive. The battle cry says restore 6 health, which it can restore to a minion. It can restore to your face. It can go anywhere, right? So that's really good. And it's not a legendary. You can get 2 of. It's just a rare. So I see there's a lot of good in this card, but I honestly don't think it's a card that they printed for the next couple of months. I think it's a card that they printed for later when shit rotates out, and then Control Shaman is going to be an archetype that's kind of going to be the main Shaman archetype, and then Jinyu Water Speaker will have a prominent role in those decks. Just the way the decks are currently constructed right now, it's going to be very hard to slot this card in. What the hell are you taking out in mid-range Shaman? Even in Control Shaman, what the hell are you taking out? To put this in? I don't know. I don't think so. I just don't see it. However, like I said, never underestimate health restoration in this game, especially something like this where the body's already very good and the healing comes on top of it and you're just overloading 1. It is a good card. I just don't think it'll see play until 2017. In Arena, this card is excellent. Excellent. Being able to heal up a 3-drop, heal up a 4-drop, heal up your face, taking only 1 overload, getting a very strong body that's going to trade very well on 4 and 5 mana cost turns in Arena. It's excellent. I mean, it's a really good card. It's a card that will see play. It's a card you're going to want to draft. So in Constructed, I'm giving it a 4 right now because I don't think it'll see play. But I think in 2017, it'll be like a 7. And in Arena, I'm going to give it just a 5. I think it's good. I think the health restoration is great. I'm going to give it a 6. Nah, take that back. It's going to be good. It's not going to be excellent, but it's going to be good. You're going to be happy you drafted it. It might win you. It might, push you from 9 to 10 wins, Moving on. Let's see what else we got here. Gadgetzan card reveal dump stream next Monday, November 28th. There you go. So that's why we're doing this now, buddy. Jade Chieftain. Okay. Shaman card. 7 mana, 5/5. Battle Cry. Summon a Jade Golem and give it Taunt. So this is actually the reverse of the Jade Behemoth. The Jade Behemoth had Taunt and summoned a Jade Golem. This is a 5/5 that summons a Jade Golem with Taunt. So the Jade Golem is actually protecting this guy. This guy. Neat. 7 mana is really late to be dropping a 5/5. But, if it's a 5/5 that summons a 4/4 with Taunt, that's pretty good. That's not bad. I think the stat loss on this guy might be too much to be made up for with the Jade Golem. But I guess if you paid... Okay, if someone told me you could pay 7 mana and get a 5/5 and a 5/5 with Taunt, would you play that card? Yeah, I would play that card. Would I play that in a mid-range Shaman card? In a Shaman deck? Yeah. Would it replace Thunderbluff Valiant? Probably not. But I could see it going alongside it and having that sort of be your top end. Could you slot in some Jade Golem stuff and use sort of the mid-range Shaman shell? Yeah, I think you could. I think you could go like Totem Golem and Tunnel Trog and a few Overload cards and then a few Jade Golem cards. And then by the time this Jade Chieftain guy comes out, you're getting a 5/5 and a 4/4 with Taunt. That's cool, man. That's cool. You know, it's more value. It's extra value. And so Shaman, mid-range Shaman might actually be slowing down a little bit, but being more value-oriented and playing all, you know, it's about spreading the board a lot of the time in mid-range Shaman. You know, it's just dropping too many threats and refilling the board. This card does refill the board. It does put 2 minions on for the price of 1 card on your board. And I could see that having a place. The only thing is that the Jade Golem synergy requires you to play a lot of Jade Golem cards, and I don't know if current Shaman decks will have the space to fit this guy into them. So I feel like you're going to have to make a Jade Golem-oriented deck around this guy, and I don't know if that's actually going to be stronger than the current Shaman lists. And so my thinking is that Jade Golem stuff for Shaman is going to be somewhat weak relative to the Druid and relative to the Rogue. But who knows? We'll see. We haven't seen all the cards revealed yet. My guess is, though, is that Shaman is going to kind of stay the same where it is, and integrate some Jade Golem stuff, but it's just not going to be quite as powerful as the pure Jade Golem, Druid, and Rogue decks. But that being said, Shaman already has, you know, the best deck in the game right now, so I don't think it's going to necessarily fall off that far, given the Jade Golem, some of the Jade Golem stuff. You know, Jade Lightning will probably fit its way into a Shaman decks anyway. So you got Jade Lightning, you got 2 Jade Lightnings, 2 Jade Chieftains, some sort of other, you know, Eye of Blackpaw, 2 Jade Spirits. That might be enough. You know, maybe you just top off on like a 6/6 Jade Golems, and, you know, hey, that might be good enough. I don't know. I don't know if this card is going to be good enough to make it into current decks, but it could foster other decks. So in Constructed, I'm just going to give it a straight 5. It really just depends on the sort of support that the Jade Golem gets. In Arena, I question whether there's going to be enough Jade Golem synergy. This could just be a 5/5 that summons a 1/1 or a 2/2 with Taunt. For 7 mana, that's kind of crappy. Yeah, if this was 6 mana, it'd be good no matter what. But at 7 mana, I think it's too expensive. For Arena, I'm going to give this a 4. Vermin Sensei. They spelled vermin the World of Warcraft way, not the English way. Huh. Coincidentally, Vermin has the I and the E switched. So regular Vermin is Vermin. This is Virmen. So it's like they're men. And looks like a really cool ninja bunny character. Huh. 5 mana, 4/5, Druid card. Vermin Sensei Battlecry. Give a friendly beast +2/+2. So this is a somewhat shittier Houndmaster for Druids on a later cost with +2 health and no taunt. This card is the definition of mediocre average. So what's the big Beast Druid synergy, right? It's Stranglethorn Tiger into Menagerie Warden. This is a 5-drop that's not a beast for some reason, even though it's a vermin. I don't get that. So it does not have synergy with beasts, but it does have synergy with beasts that are already on the board. So it's nice to see another beast buff. So I have been playing a Menagerie Warden deck with Druid that basically centers around Wild Walkers, Jungle Panthers, Druid of the Sabers, and then of course Stranglethorn Tiger and the Menagerie Warden. And the idea is to play these Stealth Panthers, buff their health, and then have really big things, and then copy them with the Menagerie Warden, and copy 7/7s, and copy 4/5s, and copy 6/6s, and just build a giant board and go face, because they have stealth. So I can actually see a deck like that using Vermin Senseis in them, you know, just as an alternative buff mechanic. It's not bad. It could be good. If you add the stats together, you're getting a 6/7 on 5 mana, which isn't bad, but it requires you to have a beast. So here's what I think is going to happen. And it hasn't happened yet, but this is my guess. You don't print a card like this if you don't give it some backup. So my guess is they're going to make a tiger card that is between a jungle panther and a Stranglethorn tiger. They're going to make a 4-mana 5/4, 4-mana 5/3 with stealth tiger thing. And then Vermin Sensei is going to combo perfectly with that. And then Menagerie Warden will combo perfectly with that. And so then Beast Druid will be a thing, but it'll be stealthily Beast Druid. It'll be a Beast Druid that's based off of stealth and buffing shit. And that will be a good deck. Will it be tier 1? Probably not. Probably not even then. But it could be tier 2. It could be a good deck, and Vermin Sensei could have a spot in that. I just don't think this card is enough to really push the Beast archetype, you know? This card is nowhere near the power level of Menagerie Warden. And it's in the 5-mana slot. It's just, it's too strong. It's the mana cost is too high. I just don't think it's going to see a place. If this was a 3-drop, if they made this a 3-mana 2/3, give a friendly beast +2/+2, I think I would play that. Because then I could buff my Druids of the Saber. I could buff my Power of the Wild Panthers. Right? I could buff my 2-drops. If I could buff my 2-drops, this thing would be fucking sick. Right? I want to do that. That's what I want to do. You know, I want to buff my 2-drops. On 5, I'm buffing 3-drops and 4-drops. There's not really a lot of beasts there. I don't know how, maybe my Savage Combatant lives? It's such a high priority Titan, you know what I mean? So there's not enough cards that are going to live to see this buff. And that's why I think this card is just going to end up being mediocre and is not really going to further the Beast Druid archetype. Constructed, I give this a 4. In Arena, it'll be good. It's 5-mana 4/5, which is Yeti stats, which isn't bad. And the likelihood of you having a beast is relatively high now because there's just so many fucking beasts. In Druid, in Arena, this will be a good card. This solid card will be 7, So, there you go. And, there's still more. We're not done yet. You got more. Newer articles. Oh, we've actually got 2 legendaries to reveal today. I forgot. Here we go. This one's not it, though. Y'all gonna have to wait. Little secret to video making. Always put the good stuff at the end. And, yeah, so speaking of good stuff, this is not it. Gadgetzan Ferryman, 2-mana, 2/3 combo, return a friendly minion to your hand. I have mixed feelings about this card because we already have Youthful Brewmasters and we already have Ancient Brewmasters and we already have Shadow Steps. So does Rogue really need another return a friendly minion to your hand card? We already have Shadowcasters. And this is a combo, so it doesn't work with Bran, so you can't bounce 2 thing. Well, I don't think that bounces. I don't think that works anyway, but I mean, it's a combo card, so that's neat. And the fact that you get to choose whether to bring the card back or not, because you can choose whether to combo this or not, I think, that's neat. And that has some situational power to it. But being able to choose whether to use an ability that a lot of the time is a negative, hooray? Would I play a fucking... what's that card? The 3-mana, the Swords. Swords card in Arena. The 3-mana 4/4 that draws a card for your opponent when it dies. Would I play that card if I could, half the time have him not draw a card? Or if I could sometimes choose to not give him a card? Actually, yeah, I think I would. I don't know. I just feel like this is a mechanic that's not it's not really lacking. One of the things that made Resurrect Priest a thing is because when you first played a Resurrect Priest deck without the Onyx Bishop, you only had 2 Resurrect effects. You couldn't build a deck around that. But once you got some redundancy, once you got 4 Resurrect effects, now you can build a deck around that. But with the Gadgetzan Ferryman, this effect is there. If you wanted to build a bounce deck, you already could. There's already enough cards to do it. So I just don't know if this card is that good, but I think it could create some crazy shenanigans with Shadowcaster and Bran. So if it does, that's great. I might be severely underestimating this card, but I do think, I don't know, I just don't see enough power in this card. I don't see enough of its applications to really make it a good card and make it seen. You have to build a very specific deck archetype for this card to work. A card that really has very good battle cry cards that you want to keep bouncing back and keep playing back. Coincidentally, the Gadgetzan Ferryman can bounce itself back and forth if you have 2 of them. Ooh, because you can keep comboing, keep returning them. I don't know. Is there a combo there that I'm not seeing? Probably. I just don't think it's a very good card. I think it's gonna not see a lot of play, and it's gonna get a 3 in Constructed. In Arena, it's a 2-mana 2/3, pretty good. And if you want to combo it, you can. So I think it's actually gonna have more applications in Arena. And I will give it a 6 in Arena. I just thought of something. Jade Golem synergy. So this does have very good Jade Golem synergy for cards that summon Jade Golems upon entering. So if they have a Battle Cry summon a Jade Golem card, you will want to have this card in your deck. For instance, turn 8, Aya Blackpaw, Gadgetzan Ferryman, you get Aya Blackpaw back. Not the best application, but it's there. Jade Spirit, the 4-mana 2/3 that summons a Jade Golem, right? You could Jade Spirit, Gadgetzan Ferryman, send it back, play it again on turn 10. Boom, you have 2 Jade Golems, you have a 2/3, and you have another 2/3, and hopefully you have like a 6/6 and a 7/7. That's not a bad turn 10 play. It's pretty good. It refills your board, gives you stuff. And this guy's 6 on the board too. It is something that you're going to have to deal with. So if there's more Battle Cry, Jade Golem things that come out for Rogue, this card could actually see some play. And like I said, being able to choose which friendly minion to send back and being able to choose whether to do it or not does have power. So it could see play in those decks. So I'm going to tentatively bump this up to a 4. Alrighty, let's move on. Moving on. You can't stop. Right back. What is wrong? We move along. I shouldn't be singing on these videos because YouTube's gonna fucking ban me. Daring Reporter. It is a common card, a 4-mana 3/3 neutral. Whenever your opponent draws a card, gain +1/+1. So it's like finding out all the scoops and stuff. That's kind of neat. My very first thought is it's going to be a 4/4 on your opponent's turn. So it's fairly statted in that sense. If your opponent does any card draw shenanigans, it's just going to get stronger and stronger. So it is going to force your opponent to have to think about whether to draw cards or not. Cold Light Oracles. This has great synergy with Cold Light Oracles. It has great synergy with, anything that sort of forces your opponent to draw cards. It has good synergy. So maybe this will see play in like mill decks. I could see that. I could see it having mill deck synergy. But other than that, I kind of think that's probably the only place it's going to see play. But it is neat, and it does keep growing. I could see this being a fairly neat tech counter to a lot of the Cabal decks who are going to be hoarding cards and drawing cards. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, there's applications there. If you can make your opponent draw cards, this card has potential. And I could see this kind of slotting in alongside the Questing Adventurer combo deck with this card. You know? Maybe there's some sort of like Daring Reporter, Questing Adventurer, Cold Light, Oracle, super cheap spell, conceal everybody kind of combo thing going on. It's possible. I could see it. I might try it out. But honestly, I think this is one of those cards where it's hard to come up with more neutrals. At this point in the game's history, they've kind of come up with everything. I don't know. Like, there's not a whole lot of neutral effects that are left in the game. And so they got to fill slots somehow. And I think this is one of those cards that kind of fills a slot. In Arena, this card will be fine. It'll be a 4-mana 4/4 on your opponent's turn. Good enough. You know, not terrible, but not good. So, Arena gets a 5. In Constructed, I just don't think it's going to see play outside of mill-oriented decks, and who knows how strong those are going to be, especially given that there's Jade Idols now in Druid. So, I think that deck archetype is just going to be weak in and of itself, and I'm probably not going to see play. I'm going to give it a 3 in Constructed. Yeah, some of these cards I have a lot to say about, and some of them are just, you know, there's just not a ton to talk about here. Ah, Lord. Shaman cards. I'm okay with this one. Jade Claws. It's a 2-mana, 2/2 weapon. Battle Cry, summon a Jade Golem and overload 1. Perfectly acceptable card. It is weaker than a Totem Golem. It has the same mana cost and overload as a Totem Golem. It summons a Jade Golem. If this is your first play, it's a 2/2 weapon that summons a 1/1. Perfectly reasonable. Not super OP like Spirit Claws is. I think this is a good card. This will start the Jade Golem train going for Shamans. And you might just see it it might get slotted into some regular Shaman decks that don't even use Jade Golem synergy. Just 2-mana, 2/2 weapon and a 1/1. It's pretty good. It's not bad at all. You know, it's fairly statted. The problem is that all the Shaman cards are super OP. And so if you don't see an OP card, it may not see play. This may not even see play in Jade Golem decks. I don't know how much support Jade Golem Shaman is going to get. Like I said, I wish this was like a Rogue card, because that would be fucking sick, right? If it was like Jade Daggers, man, I'd be playing the shit out of that card in Rogue. That'd be fucking cool. But it is a Shaman card, so we must deal with what we must deal with. Fair card, like I said. It gets a 6 in Constructed. In Arena, also pretty good, right? Stormforge Axe is a great card in Arena. This has 1 less durability, but you get a 1/1 for it. It's fine. It's good. Very often your opponent will skip their first turn, and now you got a 2/2 and a 1/1 on board, and you can threaten any 2-drop or 3-drop they play. That's good. That's actually quite good. In Arena, I will give this a 7. Maybe even an 8 if Jade Golem Synergy becomes a thing that's viable in Arena. Shadow Sensei. So this, if you remember, way in the beginning when I was talking about Jade Swarmer, I said there was a card that had very good synergy with the Jade Swarmer, but not for the reason that you might think. Here's why. This is a 4-mana 4/4 Battlecry. Give a stealth minion +2/+2. So, is Stealth Rogue gonna be a thing? It might be. So, what 2-mana, 3-mana stealth things do we have? Well, we've got Patient Assassin, right? But more importantly, we've got the Jade Swarmer. And this will make it a 3/3 that summons a Jade Golem. Pretty cool. Now, granted, it's going to have to survive till turn 4, but this is a very decent play. Jungle Panther, 4-2. This gets slapped on, it becomes a 6-4. That's a nice play. Getting a 6-4 and a 4-4 on turn 4, that's a pretty darn good swing. What about the Lotus Assassins? 5 mana, 5-5. You play this afterwards and you dagger up. Now, you've got a stealth 7-7 that re-stealths itself when it kills a minion, and a 4-4 body. That's really good too. Even if you don't get the battle cry out, that's still a 4 mana 4-4. That's not bad. Where's the big synergy? Who is the biggest synergy for this guy? Is there some sort of 3 mana stealthed minion that would perfectly synergize with Shadow Sensei? And I cannot believe that of all the videos I've watched, nobody has talked about this synergy. It's fucking Shaku. You know why they don't talk about it? Because they just missed that card. I knew that card was going to be good. I knew they were going to support it. And here's how they're doing it. It's a 3 mana 2-3. When this gets played on, it will become a stealth 4-5 that draws cards every time it attacks. It's going to get off 2 attacks now because of this motherfucker. A 4-5 and a 4-4 that draws cards from your opponent's class is a sick combo. It's going to make fucking Burgle, Stealth, Jade Golem, Rogue a thing. And that's where I think the real archetype is going to come in. Jade Golem, Stealth, Rogue. It's going to be better than the Zoth Rogue. Watch. It's going to be tempo-oriented. Shit's going to come out. It's never going to run out of cards. It's always going to have a ton of shit. And it's going to use your opponent's cards against you. Ethereal Peddler will be a fucking powerhouse. It'll probably top off at Ethereal Peddler. And you're just going to tempo out a bunch of shit that has stealth. You're going to tempo out a bunch of Jade Golem shit. And you're just going to fucking smash. And you're going to build a board way faster than people. Watch. I guarantee it. This is the deck archetype. This is it. And this card right here, Shadow Sensei, is going to enable that. It is a stealth Jade Golem Burgle Rogue. It's gonna happen. Watch. Calling it now. Shadow Sensei, shockingly, surprisingly good card with ridiculous synergy with a lot of cards in Rogue. I guarantee it. Calling it now. Later on, I'm going to say, you're all going to say I'm right. And then when that deck burns to the ground, I'm just going to ignore the fact that I said this and delete this video. But I really do love this card. I think it's great. And in Constructed, I'm going to give it a 7. Potentially an 8 or a 9 in the deck that I just described. In Arena, 4 mana 4-4 most of the time. Pretty good. If you do have a stealth minion and it does buff it, awesome. But most of the time the buff's not going to come out. So it's a 5. 4 mana 4-4 is average and good enough. I wish there was more to say about it in Arena, but like I said, it's a constructed card for the most part. And second to last, but definitely not least once you see this motherfucker, we've got White Eyes, the legendary, who is the face of the Jade Lotus, but not the leader of the Jade Lotus. So it has been confirmed Aya Blackpaw, as the tri-class legendary for the Jade Lotus, is the actual leader. But this is the guy that everybody thinks is the leader of the Jade Lotus, according to the lore. 5 mana 5-5 Taunt, Death Rattle, shuffle the Storm Guardian into your deck. So, it has the Zoth synergy. It's another big taunt. And a 5 mana 5-5 Taunt. It's pretty good. Granted, it's expensive for shamans. Thing from below. Bullshit. You don't get to drop this for 0 mana. But, if you had enough totem synergy going into this point, it'd be a fairly awesome swing turn to go 5 mana, 5-5 Taunt, White Eyes, and a Thing from Below, and then just kind of totally stonewall your opponent on turn 5. But guess what? It shuffles the Storm Guardian into your deck. What the fuck is the Storm Guardian? Yeah, it's the Super Saiyan form of White Eyes. 5 mana 10-10 with Taunt. I thought we were trying to make shamans less crazy. I thought we were not going to give them ridiculous things. So, what the fuck's up with this card? I get it, legendaries are supposed to be cool, but there's a lot of crap legendaries, and you could have given them a crap legendary, because they're already good. This? Really? A 5-mana 5/5 with taunt that shuffles a 5-mana 10/10 with taunt into your deck. Really? How is this bad? How is this ever bad? You are never, ever going to complain about getting a 5-mana 10/10 with taunt. Oh man, I'm going to lose the game now because I got the 5-mana 10/10 with taunt. No, it has taunt, so it blocks everything, and it kills most of the shit. This card is going to single-handedly keep you alive most of the time when it gets drawn. And it might just swing the game and just win. You know, it's a win condition in and of itself. Why? Why? Why are you doing this? Why, Shamans? Thank God it's a legendary. Oh my God. Like, seriously, what the fuck? Why are we giving this to Shaman? Why does Shaman get this card? What, did they need more taunts? Did they really need more buff fucking taunts? Really? Was Feral Spirits and Thing from Below not enough? Really? Really? Shaman is still going to be eminently frustrating to me. And I don't like that. And I really don't think the Jade Golem synergy is going to be enough. But this motherfucker right here. Just look, see what you're doing? Look, you're making Darth mad. Look at him. He wants to choke this card. He wants to choke this guy. White eyes. Well, he just hates things that are white, because he's dark and he's evil. I just, this card is just going to annoy the shit out of me, and I can already feel it. Now, is this card going to suck against Cabal cards? Probably. If they know you're playing this in their deck, they're going to hold back some of the removal for this card. And, if White Eyes gets entombed, who cares? White Eyes gets entombed and then he's useless. And then he's just even more powerful for Priest. So I feel like Priest is going to super hard counter this guy. Even if they just kill White Eyes, they can always just Shadow Word Death the 10/10. So, in Cabal, against Cabal decks, I think this will actually not be that powerful. But I do think that against the Grimy Goons decks, and I do think against the other Jade Lotus decks, this card will be very powerful. So in Constructed, I'm giving it an 8. And in Arena, it's a legendary, so it's really not going to come up much. But if you do get it, this card is fucking insane. It's going to be a 10 in Arena. This card will actually probably push Shaman a little higher on the tier list in terms of Arena. Might even push him, okay. Like I said, it's a legendary. But if you get it in your deck, it's a 10. But the likelihood of you getting it is very low. And last but not least, literally revealed about an hour before I began this video, Sergeant Sally. It is a 3-mana 1/1 Death Rattle. Deal damage equal to this minion's attack to all enemy minions. I will admit, I have not had a lot of time to think about this card. So, I don't know if this is good or not. However, I have some thoughts. If you keep this card in a Grimy Goons deck, and you can buff it up to a 3/3, to a 4/4, it now becomes a 3-mana 4/4 Death Rattle Flame Strike your opponent. If you buff this to a 2/2, it now becomes a 3/3 Death Rattle Consecrate your opponent. If you buff this up to a 3/3, it then becomes a 3-mana 3/3 Death Rattle, Excavated Evil, only your opponent's side. That's kind of blowing my mind. It's a Death Rattle board clear only for your opponent on a 1/1 body. Even if you just Abusive Sergeant this motherfucker, it'll deal 3 damage to everybody on the other board. Wow. With buffs, this card is crazy. Now, it doesn't have taunt, so it's not saving you. And your opponent can choose when to trade into it, if at all. So, in all likelihood, you're not going to have a lot of control over when it gets procced. But it only affects enemy minions. Like, it's not like fucking Abomination or the what is it, Unstable Ghoul, where it affects everybody. Or even, well, at least with Ravaging Ghoul, you have the choice as to when to play it. So you can set the board up to where it's good for you. With Sergeant Sally, you're not always going to have a choice as to when this gets procced, but because it only affects enemy minions, it kind of doesn't matter. Yes, they can play around it a little bit, but once this motherfucker gets dropped, and even if it's just a 2-2, that's all you kind of need from this card, is just a 2-2. And consecrate your opponent's board, and now you're making good trades. You know? Maybe this card could have a very similar effect to Sylvanas, where instead of going face, or instead of making trades with other things on the board, they're like, all right, we're just going to have to trade everything in a way, I'm just going to trade all my weak stuff and keep one big minion, and then trade into Sergeant Sally, and then, I feel like this card is going to be like Sylvanas. I remember when I first started playing, Sylvanas was actually my first legendary, and I ended up dusting it after a week or two, because I just didn't really understand all the applications that went into it. I didn't really understand how it actually affected my opponent's play. Plus, it was a 6-mana card, and it was expensive, and I was playing aggro face decks at the time. And I feel like the same thing is sort of happening with this card. Dropping this card is going to just fuck with your opponent's head. And they're going to have to sit there and go, okay, what the fuck? How do I do this? How do I play around this? Shit, I spent all this time building this board, and here comes this card, and it might just wipe my entire fucking board. Like crap. It was the one thing that I thought Grimy Goons decks were going to have trouble with, was clearing an opponent's board while still maintaining their own board. Yes, they're playing big buff stuff, but they may not be able to play enough buff stuff to beat down the board clears of their opponents and still maintain board presence, or to be able to trade effectively with a lot of these Jade Golem cards. So Sergeant Sally might actually be the card that's going to allow them to make that last push to clear their board, clear their opponent's taunts, and then just push that face damage. And that's where I think its application is going to be best used, is as sort of a secure the game, finish the game, close the game out, last second board clear, and then just go. And it could also be, one of those things where it's the card that stalls your opponent. So let's say your opponent is also playing some sort of Grimy Goon deck and is starting to develop big boards. Well, you play this card, and then now you're wiping out 2 or 3 of his dudes, with your 3/3 Sally. There you go. Now you're back. It's a recovery mechanic, and it's also an aggressive mechanic. Just being able to get potentially a fucking flame strike in a body, that's really, really big. That's really good. And I'll tell you what, man, Sergeant Sally might see a lot of play in my Grimy Goons decks. In some of the other decks that don't have the buff potential, this card may not see the same amount of play, It's a 3-mana 1/1. I guess you could ping it and deal 1 damage to everything. That's kind of good. I just thought of a neat application for this card. Power Overwhelming Shadow Flame. Then it's a 5/5 that will deal 5 damage and then another 5 damage. Pretty cool. So this could actually have applications in Warlock to deal a little bit of extra damage to clear off your opponent's board, right? Imagine this card with Fellfire Potion. If you need a massive board clear, this card, Power Overwhelming, and then Fellfire Potion, 5 damage to everything. This card dies, boom, another 5 damage to everything. So temporary buffs are going to be really good with this card too, right? Even in something like Hunter, where, obviously Hunter board clears are hard to find, this would help a lot, So any archetype that can buff this card and then kill it somehow, it's going to be really good in. So I actually think this card is going to see a lot of applications, it's going to see a lot of play, and it's going to be much stronger than people think. Constructed, I'm giving this an 8. In Arena, it is a legendary that deals 1 damage to everything. It's going to suck. Too much tempo loss. Yes, you're dealing 1 damage to everything, but your opponents basically are going to be ones that are going to control that. Poop, 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 poop. It is a 2 in Arena. So guys, that's it. That's all the cards. I hope you enjoyed the card review. I really appreciate it. Check back in tomorrow for my review of the last, I believe it's 40 cards of the Mean Streets of Gadgetzan. I really appreciate you watching. Please look below. Every other part of these reviews are going to be here in links below. Please hit the subscribe button. Please check out the live streams. Please check out Facebook. Also, please check out YouTube. Everything is in the links below. As always, I really appreciate anybody watching these videos. It makes me feel great that you guys are part of this. And I love this expansion. I think it's going to be awesome. And I cannot wait to get streaming again and show you guys all the cool cards and all the cool decks out there, man. Really appreciate it. Sergeant Sally. Yeah, baby. She's my new love. All right, guys. Thank you again. Really appreciate it. I will see y'all in December for the new expansion.